Congressional District, proudly represent the 7th Congressional District. And I am happy that and honored to have our Assemblywoman, Joanne Simon, with us.
Yes.
As we stand here this morning, countless families across the city are trying to salvage their damn belongings, waiting on the phone to talk to insurance agents, and staying with relatives because their homes are no longer livable. That is because a hurricane that started in the Gulf Coast traveled all the way to New York City with record force, leading to catastrophic flooding. So you don't need to tell me or tell us climate change is real. You don't need to tell us it will only affect future generations. My heart goes out to the 13 families who lost loved ones, including Michael Robinson, who lost his life found in Gowanus Bay at the mouth of the canal at 25th Street following the storm. No, climate change is here and is only going to get worse unless we act. This is the moment. It's the wake-up call. And we have one opportunity to get it right. Yesterday, the president was visiting and touring part of New Jersey and New York. And we need the city to take responsibility in our task and solemn responsibility of protecting people's lives. Woo!
Yes.
As I have said in the past, New York City's infrastructure is not where it needs to be to withstand climate change. Right. Tragically, we saw this again last week with Ida. In Congress, I'm fighting to pass President Biden's Build Back Better, which will dedicate the resources needed to lead the charge on climate resilience infrastructure, including funding for public housing.
Yeah.
But today, we are here to discuss a much more local issue. That is the future of a neighborhood we all love and I'm proud to represent in Congress. I am here with Assemblywoman Joanne Simon, and we are joined by local community groups that voice our concern over the Gowanus Neighborhood Rezoning Draft Environmental Impact Statement as prepared by the city. It is fraught with inconsistencies and contradictions.
Yes.
And most importantly, it does not properly take into consideration the impacts of massive rainstorms on the Gowanus community and on the ongoing cleanup of the Gowanus Canal, which is an EPA Superfund site. Whew. So, today, Assembly members and I are sending a letter, and my staff is here for anyone who wants to get a copy. A letter to Mayor Bill de Blasio outlining exactly these concerns and urging the city to revisit their environmental impact statement draft for the Gowanus rezoning.
Yes.
In our letter, we highlight EPA's comments on the city's draft DEIS or DEIS related to the Gowanus Canal Superfund cleanup, which EPA sent to Marisa Lago, Director of New York City Department of City Planning on August 8th. EPA points out, and this is the letter, and I invite everyone, please read this letter. To the city agencies, you have a responsibility to answer the inconsistencies that were raised in this letter by EPA.
Yes.
EPA points out that a Superfund record of decision issued in 2013 requires that any future development under the city's purview not compromise the environmental cleanup remedy, specifically stating that redevelopment projects must prevent additional sewer load. And this is EPA raising this concern, and every step of the way I have raised with the city and the planning commission the same concern. I didn't fight to get and the community, because this was a collective effort, including Assemblymember Gowanus Rezoning, to get the designation as a Superfund of the Gowanus Canal. For now, allowing for any type of development that will compromise the health of the canal. Yes. They got to show up that will not happen. High density development can put more pressure on all sewers, risking overflow contamination of the cleanup and spillover effects. In order to ensure that the rezoning does not increase combined sewer overflows, or CSO, into the canal and surrounding area, the city must comprehensively study the sewer system, drainage and hydrology, and implement tools to guarantee that new development does not add to the problem. The city claims in its DEIS that the rezoning will not increase CSO loading but decrease it. However, the EPA points out that the city relies on dated 2008 rainfall data when more recent data is available, and neglects to incorporate its own climate change and sea level rise projections. Are you telling me, New York City, are you telling us, the New York City Planning Commission, that the events of the last 2 weeks doesn't call for the data to be revisited? The city, the EPA also found inconsistencies and contradictions in the data the city did use. This must be adequately addressed. Rainfall data for storm frequency, intensity, and duration are critical. Moreover, the city is out of compliance with many of EPA's latest orders on CSO control. Yet, the city assumes in its DEIS that those measures are a done deal. Really? When are you going to comply with building the 2 times when you say that you cannot guarantee that they will be built by 2028?
Yeah.
Right.
Two-faced.
Our city, which has already felt the brunt of climate change, cannot afford projects that fall short of protecting human health and the environment. I would like to thank all the groups and local leaders who are joining us today. Many have echoed these concerns, and thank you, Dan. I would like to thank all the groups and local leaders who are joining us today. Sierra Club, Shahana Khalif, Gowanus Canal Conservancy, Brock, Friends of Greater Gowanus, Monica Underwood, Paula Smith, voice of the Gowanus.
Yeah.
And today, thank you all. Thank you all for being committed to this cause.
Thank you.
All these groups have been calling for a transparent, accessible, and timely reporting of actual CSO impacts as new buildings are constructed to validate the model to prevent further pollution in the Gowanus Canal. Based on the current DEIS, the city cannot assure that sewer overflows will not be increased. The city needs to get it right before it proceeds, and that means a full responsible cleanup instead of non-compliance with EPA orders on things like the overflow tanks and monitoring. The tanks should be the minimum starting point.
Right.
The events of the last few weeks should make clear to everyone that the effects of climate change are not just projections, but are here and becoming more frequent, with the last two storms setting records for rainfall in the Northeast. The city needs to account for the fact that much of Gowanus is a flood zone. The city also needs to do more now to ensure responsible development. This is an issue of environmental justice. Yes. A sustainable future, and as Ida has proved, is an issue of protecting human lives.
Yeah.
Yes. So, again, I want to thank all of you. This is our city. This is about us. And for me, this is personal. And for you, I know every one of you. But I do know what climate change means for my homeland of Puerto Rico. We lost more than 4,000 lives. When I saw Ida last week, I immediately called Dan Wiley and said, we need to come out. This is real. This is real. And we need to make sure that the city understands we're not going away. We will use every tool to demand from the city to do what is right. To protect. And now it is a great pleasure to ask Joan Simon.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Congresswoman Velasquez for being you and for your leadership throughout the years on this really, really important issue. I also want to acknowledge the groups that are here today. She's already mentioned them. I'm not going to reiterate the Congresswoman's comments, but I do want to say a few things about why we're here today and why this is critical. It's clear that this is an extremely fragile area that's been greatly impacted by the two recent severe storms. More than a dozen New Yorkers died as a result of these storms and flooding, many of whom lived in basement apartments. Michael Robinson, a Gowanus resident, was found drowned in the mouth of the canal after Ida, and my prayers go out to all of their families. So many of our constituents are reporting extensive damage and loss from flooding and sewer backups in areas that extend far beyond the border of the canal itself. And that is because these storms overwhelmed our systems. They overwhelmed our sewer systems. Every time I have raised this issue with any development, we have a sewer system that is working as it was designed to work 100 years ago. When we did not have the population, we didn't have the number of toilets flushing, we didn't have the rainfall that we have now as a result of our history of messing up our planet, right? So we have to make changes to our infrastructure. It's not sexy, it's not fun, it doesn't look pretty in pictures, but we are going to all drown, and our health and safety is going to be irreparably compromised if we don't do that work now. So our letter today to Mayor de Blasio makes clear why the city must revise its EIS immediately to base its analyses on current data, to competently analyze rainfall and sewer capacity, climate change, and to do an environmental justice assessment. How did they not do an EJ assessment in this EIS? Makes no sense to me.
Right.
It is mind-boggling to me that the city thought it could escape this very cogent review that the EPA has done. And let me be clear, EPA has jurisdiction over the Superfund site's remedy. They are the competent and scientifically competent authority to make these determinations. And they don't have an interest in any of the asserted benefits from redeveloping this area. We're here today because, as President Biden said yesterday, climate change is an existential threat. It's here. It's not going to get better. It could get a lot worse. We can help forestall that, but it is not going to get better. Being a state elected official, I was very gratified that Governor Hochul has been out a number of times to Queens and to other locations, and she has also said, look, there are no more unforeseeable events. It's here. If the buck stops here, we're going to have to make these changes, and we're going to be doing that. So I'm very proud to be a co-sponsor of the Climate Community Investment Act, which will provide additional funding to get the ball rolling on the CLCPA, which is New York's Green New Deal. We need to make more progress on that, and we need to really fund that this year when we go back into session in our budget. This at the doorstep of New York City, which has been recalcitrant in following the EPA's orders, combined with its use of pre-Sandy, pre-Superfund data, tells me that New York is not planning for the future. It's not focusing on livability and the public's health. It's making believe it can do business as usual, playing games with data to evade recognition and the cost of the problems that are on our doorstep now. It's using outdated zoning tool as a proxy for urban planning, and while ULURP has never been a satisfying process, here in the Gowanus watershed, the consequences will be much more than unsatisfactory. They will be dangerous to the health and safety of our current and future residents in the area. So we need to ensure that the people who want to live here can do so safely. And again, the city must revise the DEIS to conform to the rainwater, sewer, climate change, and environmental justice analyses that the EPA has recommended, and that is essential. With this crisis before us, we need coordinated action with the state, the city, and the federal government. And again, I'm going to be working very hard on ensuring that the CCIA is passed this year, because we need to ensure the resiliency of our city's infrastructure for our future, our children's future, our grandchildren's future, and those people who we don't know, who will be coming to Gowanus. We want people to come to Gowanus. We want a community like this. We got the Superfund site because of community action led by working with elected officials throughout the area. We will get a clean Gowanus Canal and safe development if, in fact, we work together. Not every group here agrees with each other on every point, but the point here is we are together today because we agree that the health and safety of the residents of Gowanus is paramount, and that the Superfund remedy is paramount. And we are all united in that regard. The final environmental impact statement is due out on time. That is why we are here today. Because you know what? We had 2 record storms in the last 2 weeks. We had water in our basement and in my bedroom twice. My neighbors were much more seriously affected than I was. I was very lucky. But the reality is, it's overwhelming our sewer system. We can't wait. We have to go back and redo this. Because the reality is, even though when there's an FEIS that is issued, the public can comment, but there's no obligation on the entity to respond to those comments to the FEIS and making the changes. So now is the time to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me also share with you that 2 incoming members to the City Council are here today. As I mentioned, Johanna to do the markup under my committee's jurisdiction and to continue negotiations on public housing. Schumer and the New York delegation have been fighting very hard to make sure that we secure the resources so that development like this are not used to build in an irresponsible way. So,
Thank you for your work.
I never heard the word Eric Adams. He recently signed off on this. The way it is set up, he has caveats within it. Are you familiar with what?
the mayor of New York is Bill de Blasio
No, but this is-
until Eric Adams and the EIS final report or draft final version will be coming out before Eric Adams takes office.
Of course, but if he becomes the mayor.
So you know what we're doing here, sir? We're making it easier for Eric Adams.
That's right.
How do you feel about his position?
Pardon?
How do you feel about his position as borough president?
Well, you know, when he held this press conference here, the two events from Henry and Ida hadn't happened. So this is a wake-up call for any incoming elected official, whether that is Eric Adams, Lincoln Ressler, or Tahani.
Assemblymember, do you want to ask the same issue, please?
You know, right, I think the answer is to ask the borough president directly. He did have some caveats. As you know, Community Board 6 approved with like 30 pages of caveats practically. So there are a lot of caveats. And one of the issues that we've raised in our letter is the fact that although there are lots of caveats and restrictions that people who have lent support to the rezoning have outlined, we have absolutely no assurance that anybody is going to pay any attention and enforce any of those things at all. So the reality is that we can all say that we have a reservation or a restriction that would limit our support. But the reality is, unless something happens to do that, it doesn't really matter. So right now, Eric Adams is coming in as mayor. He has already said that we have screwed up our planet and we need to start now. So he has commented since Henri and Ida with regard to the level of climate change. So I don't know whether his opinion would change with regard to this rezoning, but he is very aware of climate change and has been talking about that forcefully. So I invite you to ask him further.
And how about Brad Lambert?
Look, please, we're here for any other question related to
What's the next course of action if the city won't redo the environmental impact study?
well, they are coming out this in a 2 days, allegedly. I know that the city has reached out to me to ask to pause, but when it comes to climate change, we cannot pause. And when it comes to an old infrastructure that will not be able to handle rainstorms like what we saw last week, of 8 inches, and the previous week, we cannot. We can come to us here, to this community, and say that the final EIS was took into account faulty data of 2008. That's the issue. Any other questions?
Where's our hydrology studies? We need to be basing this on the rainfall we rolled out. It was called more than 10 years ago, and it is never served environmental assessment.
So, thank you so much, and we'll see what happens. So we will continue on this fight together.
Dan, should I?
Are you passing this?
Oh no, they've been passed to me. It's one piece of paper.